is your Classic Metal Show right here on theclassicmetalshow.com. That's a brand new one from Michael Schenker's Temple of Rock. The name of the tune is Black Moon Rising. And on the phone, the one, the only, the legend himself, Michael Schenker. Michael, how are you, man?
Good morning. I'm fine, thank you.
Well, Michael, exciting time in the world of Michael Schenker. Got a brand new record out, and a record where you got to get back together with a lot of old friends, man. It's got to be exciting for you.
Absolutely. Well, I have a brand new album out with Michael Schenker's Temple of Rock titled Bridge the Gap, and featuring ex-Rainbow singer Dougie White, ex-Scorpions rhythm section from Rock You Like a Hurricane, Herman Ralber on drums, and Francis Buchholz on bass, and Wayne Findlay from MSG on 7-string and keyboards. The release date was on the 7th in the States of January, and so the album lineup, World Tour, will not start until the March in Japan of this year, and we will be with the album lineup in America with the around autumn. So I said to the guys in the band, I'm going to take Dougie with me to the States. The album is going to come out on the 7th. I want to be there when it's released. I haven't done promotion for any albums or any of my tours for many, many years. So this is a very special album, and so I decided to take Dougie with me, go here, be here on the 7th, and put some shows together to really push and promote the new album, and also the album line-up world tour that will be in the States around autumn of 2014.
Excellent. Well, and Michael, one of the things with you is you have always been one of the more prolific writers as far as writing and actually releasing music. You know, this album follows fairly quickly off of the last Temple of Rock record in 2011, and there was a live release in there, and you had by invitation only. So when does it stop for you?
Well, like my life is, if I look back now, my life seems to be like in 3 stages. The first stage was more about developing as a guitarist, my musical contribution to the world. It was the 70s, and focusing on pure self-expression. That went all the way up to Strangers in the Night. I rejoined the Scorpions for Love Drive when I made one album together with Herman and Francis, the only one, many years ago, and that opened the doors for America, for my brother, for the Scorpions. I withdrew and focused on personal, development, and so around 2008, I kind of, developed an incredible liking for being on stage, which I never really felt before. And so I took that as a signal, I have to be back for the final. And so Here I am. I went to the studio and recorded this album with this band, and I basically, went back to being 18 years old. I guess I'm a part of the cycle is closing type of thing, re-experiencing, the past. And so, I wanted this album to be fast, heavy, hard and melodic, etc., etc. So, and especially with Herman and with Francis, being together for the second album, and there is all this big gap in between. I thought this album was going to be called Bridge the Gap.
Okay. Excellent. Well, Michael, one of the things in your career, spanning all the way back to the early UFO stuff, even and even with Scorpions, is you have worked with so many different singers, and they are of different, not only different classes of singers, but very different sounding singers. None of your singers have actually really sounded the same. When you start writing music, do you write with a singer in mind, or do you find that after you've written the songs that you want to work with this guy or that guy, to put out your music?
Well, it's like this, because I withdrew in the, after Love Drive. I focused on, I created the band MSG. This is my middle years for experimenting and for doing acoustic music, doing all sorts of different things I could have never done with Ozzy Osbourne, Deep Purple, the Scorpions, UFO, or anybody. So that was my own desire and vision, was to musically move forward and to do all the things that I desired for my own personal fulfillment. And so the middle years was basically because I'm not, I was not in the machine, and I just played music, and I come to the States without promotion or without anything, playing the small places just for my hardcore fans. So basically, that's what it was all about. And so whatever was available, when I write an album, I play and discover on a regular basis guitar. And so I bump into little riffs, 5 seconds long, 10 seconds long, I put them away, and when it's time to make an album, I look at what I have, and whatever hits me first inspires me to write additional parts. I never know what an album is going to be like until the end. I may not even know who the singer is while I'm writing. So, by the time I'm ready to go in the studio, I have enough material, and I put it into rough arrangements. And, for instance, with the first Temple of Rock, Pete Way and Herman Weber and I, we got together to do a touring project with the most popular music of my involvement from old time, and so playing Strangers in the Night, Scorpions and stuff like that. But at the same time, I went to the recording studio. It was time to make an album for me, and I didn't even know anything about anything other than that I had material. Went into the studio to Michael Ford, asked him to help me out with the vocals, and when he was singing, I said, "Wow, you can actually sing. Why don't you sing on the record?" And so that's how that happened.
Okay.
Then Pete Way and Herman Weber, they heard the demo, and they were absolutely impressed, and they wanted to be the rhythm section. And then William Shatner calls up for me to play on his album. I went, you are the guy we're looking for, an actor with a big voice to speak our intro. So I ended up on his album. He was speaking on my record, and then I invited, musicians, some of the great musicians from the past, like Carmine Appice and Silent Phillips and Chris Slade and Robin McCauley and Doogie White, etc. And so and that was the first Temple of Rock, and I had no idea. It just went by step by step by step. It developed into this incredible thing, and so that's how it really all started on that level. And then Pete Way wasn't doing too well, and then I asked Herman, for the European tour, that Doogie White was going to be the first time around with us. I asked Herman, asked Francis what he's up to. Maybe, he's available. And he was more than happy to do it. So that's how this band was formed. And it was the first time that Doogie was, with us on tour. And he also sang Before the Devil Knows You're Dead on the Temple of Rock album.
Sure.
So I already knew there was a great chemistry. And that was basically the development of that band. But in between all these years, from the 80s to the 90s, I never really focused on singers. I kind of, whatever came to the foreground as available, and who sounded good, I just took on. Of course, with Phil Mork, that I wasn't looking for Phil Mork, that just happened. Klaus Meine was introduced to me by my brother when I was 14 years old.
Sure.
And Graham Bonnet was somebody that, it was either Graham Bonnet or David Coverdale. I ended up with Graham Bonnet, and that didn't last long. And then Macaulay was one attempt to experience the 50-50 type of situation where both people are equally responsible. And that's why I called it Michael Schenker Group, to keep the MSG name, and so on. And then, Leif Sanden, he was recommended by somebody from Japan. And, that's how it worked. And anyway, so Doogie White eventually kind of showed up with he has a great metal voice, and he has a very, he's a very professional singer. He's very, very entertaining, and he has that rock and roll attitude, and we have an incredible chemistry with this band. I also wanted to say, my third stage of my life is basically being back in the loop of rock and roll, celebrating the incredible era of rock, that started for me with bands like Zeppelin, Deep Purple, and Black Sabbath, etc., and then later it was Mountain, and then, Jimi Hendrix, and so on, those guys. We have already lost people, incredible players like John Bonham, Ronnie James Dio, Gary Moore, Lou Reed, Alvin Lee, Keith Moon, Randy Rhoads, and John Lord, and so many great players. So, I want to put this incredible era of handmade rock, that I fell in love with, to the forefront and celebrate this, until the end of my life. So this is the third stage, and I am putting all my energy, musical energy now, into the final, So for me, it was the beginning for music, in the middle personal, and the end is going to be all about music.
Sure. Now, Michael, let me ask you. No, it's no secret that you've you've battled some demons in the past, and no secret that you've gotten clean in the last 5 years. Which is that also part of your resurgence into rock? Is the fact that you're of a cleaner mindset
Absolutely.
these days?
The first song I ever wrote was In Search of Peace of Mind. I was 15 years old. Klaus Meine of the Scorpions, he wrote the lyrics to it, In Search, and the name of the song, In Search of Peace of Mind. And that has been my life theme, the theme of my life, all my life. Like I said, the first stage of my life was all about musical development and musical contribution to the world. I did not focus on personal development. In the middle years, I focused on personal development, and the end years is all about music to celebrate the incredible era of rock.
Okay, excellent. Well, and now, Michael, let's talk about Bridge the Gap a little bit. Like you said, you've taken a lot of influence from from the bands that you were raised on, more or less, and you can hear some of that. But at the same time, I kind of think that this is probably your most aggressive guitar record. Wow, probably since I would go back 10 years plus. I mean, just. Maybe all the way back to something like Arachnophobia, or even some of the guitar work on Heavy Hitters. Do you see this as some of your most aggressive work?
Absolutely. I'm developing, I live in the moment, and the moment is always the best. I'm moving forward, personal and musically. It doesn't go backwards. So therefore, it is like that. Plus also the surrounding, what's happening in the world at this point in time, it seems to be like to really experience all of that. All my fans are basically going through the same cycle. All the music fans going through the same cycle. Actually, the whole world goes in their own cycles, through the cycles. Everything works systematically the same way. But here we are basically redigesting the past and, and reliving it one more time. And so I find myself in that same place, I go like shit, I feel like 18 years old. I want to play fast, loud, heavy, and melodic, that kind of thing. Incredible energy, and so I think that is just part of life.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Now, Michael, you have never stopped putting out new material. Like we said earlier, you are one of the most prolific releasers of material, all under your own name, without really venturing into a whole lot of side projects and tribute records and whatnot. I mean, everything is pretty much under your monikers, whether it was MSG 1 or 2, or your solo stuff, and let's face it, most of the UFO stuff, even most people associate directly to you. With that being said, do you look at your career now and think that you've pretty much, I don't want to say accomplished everything musically, but accomplished everything that you could with the fan base that you've built?
Right, there you go. Okay, so like my brother's dream was to be in one of the most successful bands in the world. My dream was to really focus on music and develop as a great guitarist, etc., do all the things that I needed and wanted to do as an artist, as a musician. And so basically, I had a vision of what I wanted to do, and so it all had to go under Michael Schenker, because that was my fulfillment. Mm-hmm. And so my brother did his thing, I did my thing. So basically, we both have come to the point where we basically did as much as we could on that level, and so now it seems to be a new momentum is coming. I start having a great what you call it, like I'm attracted to having be in a band environment, etc. So it seems to be going that way. Like at this point in time, it's the universe is the driver. I just do my part. So we don't know what happens in right in front of us in the next couple of years. But for me, I've got already an idea to be using Michael Schenker as a platform at this point in time for Temple of Rock, and then we're trying to make Temple of Rock become its own entity. And so that I have already got ideas for the next album to sit together in the studio, and one guy plays the riff, and then everybody spontaneously adds their things to it, and also maybe use more seven strings to get that deeper sound to it. And so, that's maybe going to happen in 2015. So I'm kind of getting, with this lineup, I have a feel, it's incredible chemistry. I have a feeling of a band thing going.
Excellent. Well, let me ask you, since you touched on it a little bit, just more out of straight curiosity, and this is probably one nobody's ever asked, but which career, I guess, which status part would you rather have? Would you rather have yours, where, let's face it, and I know you know this, most people look at you as one of the most influential guitar players of the last 40 years, or would you rather have Rudy's, where he's not necessarily regarded the same way you are as an individual, but the Scorpions are clearly one of the biggest rock bands, or one of the biggest metal bands in the history of metal?
Yeah, well, it's obvious. He chose. He had a vision and he followed it. I had a vision, I followed it. So basically we both followed our dream and got very close to it. And so basically I had offers from Ozzy Osbourne, I had offers from Deep Purple, I had offers from Aerosmith, Rolling Stones, and et cetera, et cetera. I said no to all of them. I was tempted to do it,
sure,
but I said no to all of them because I knew I would not have been happy if I had made that decision. Also, it was important for me not to do that because it was my assignment. My assignment was the middle years. I see it like this. I think my musical contribution was important in the in the 70s, for the 80s, to experiment with, for other bands, etc., while I was withdrawing, going back and focusing on personal development. And now I'm back in the loop of rock and roll, and I'm doing the things now as on the musical level to put the ceiling on top, to put the seal on top of it, to celebrate this incredible era, and so therefore I have basically lived my dream, and I have been true to myself, and it was always the reminder when Ozzy asked me, or anybody, Deep Purple, my place is not to copy, my place is to invent and to create, and that's what I love doing.
Sure. Well, Michael, let me throw a name from your past that you were working with for a minute, and then I don't know what happened. What happened with Amy Sugar?
Well, that's somebody I bumped into, and, she was like a singer and a guitarist, and I thought that was unique. I was hanging out in Phoenix, in Arizona at the time, and so, we met and we jammed together, and she knew some friends, and it was just having fun, basically, and then it just came and went.
Okay, fair enough. Well, Michael, the new album, as we said, is called Bridge the Gap. It's one of your best in a really long time. I'm not that the others have been bad, but this is certainly, like I said before, for you individually, it's one of your most aggressive playing albums in a really long time. So the brand new album is called Bridge the Gap. It is Michael Schenker's Temple of Rock. Michael, where can people go online to find out more about more about you and the record and everything else that's going on?
What's the question?
Where can people go online for more information?
I don't know what you mean.
What website can they go to?
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. Yeah, the Facebook and Michael Schenker himself.com.
Okay, excellent. Well, Michael, as a tradition on the show, we always let the artist pick a song from their new album and tell us a quick story about it. So what song would you like us to end the interview with, and what's the story behind it?
Well, I love the Horizons because of the energy. I really wanted that song to be extremely fast and melodic and energetic and just kind of bubble, full of energy, and it turned out really, really good for my liking. And I like Lord of the Lost and Lonely, because it has got, lots of elements. If you hear that song, it has the heavy riff, it has melody, it has, that kind of interesting all around, all sorts of different types of, it's kind of, it sums it a bit up, even though Where the Wild Wind Blows is probably, more, gives you more of the darker side, but also, the heavier side, and basically, I make albums, I would write a book, keep it interesting from the beginning to the end, rather than focusing on individual songs. But it's basically those three, like for, if I had to play one song to people who don't know me, I would probably use Lord of the Earth and Lonely.
All right, well, let's play it right now. This is brand new stuff from Michael Schenker's Temple of Rock right here on your Classic Metal Show.